Salavan and Rykov. Translation checker, Pew Pew laser gun. Editor and proofreader, Leo of Zion Mountain and Dale Ligerkeys. In the middle of the wilderness, Yang Kai suddenly asked her to take her clothes off, and he said it in a commanding voice that accepted no refusals. Naturally, Lu Xianyun felt both angry and embarrassed, and she inevitably took it the wrong way. Yang Kai said, Yao Chang Jun left a mark on the jade box so he can pinpoint our location. I have no idea if there's anything on your clothes, but it's necessary to take precautions. You should change into a new set of clothes. Only after hearing this explanation did Lu Xianyun understand what Yang Kai was trying to do and knew that she had misunderstood his intentions. She was instantly embarrassed. But she wasn't a prudish little girl either, so she immediately began undressing after finding out the reason. Very quickly, she changed into a different set of clothes, completely burning the ones she was originally wearing. 3,000 kilometers away, Yao Chang Jun's body suddenly stopped, face turning ashen. That was because he suddenly noticed that the mark he had planted suddenly went missing. Back at the tea house, he branded a mark onto the jade box after snatching it from Yang Kai, not because he could foretell what was going to happen, but out of an abundance of caution. He had waited 200 years and finally found the heavenly restoration lotus, so how could he not act carefully? As facts proved, his cautiousness allowed him to pursue Yang Kai for 5 days without losing him. But just now, his mark suddenly disappeared. Of course, there was no way Yao Chang Jun wouldn't realize that Yang Kai had discovered his mark and erased it. But what he couldn't figure out was how Yang Kai, a trivial third-order Dao Source realm cultivator, was able to do that. The gap between their strength was real. Yao Chang Jun became both anxious and angry, howling towards the sky, "Little brat, this king will find and capture you no matter what it takes." Even though there was no more mark to show him the way, Yao Chang Jun was still unwilling to give up. The heavenly restoration lotus wasn't something that could be found easily, and it was only by chance that he was able to find one this time. If he missed this chance, he may never get another. He vowed to himself that he would find Yang Kai no matter what and rip his corpse into 10,000 pieces so he could get that heavenly restoration lotus back. Deep inside the solitary void mountain range, Yang Kai had a terrible expression on his face. Even though they managed to shake Yao Chang Jun off, they weren't in any better position right now either. That was because he had gotten lost in this damned place. After asking Lu Xianyun, she also said that she didn't know how to get out of here. She had only been this deep once, and it was all thanks to luck that she was able to get out the last time. Their surroundings seemed to have been carved out of a generic mold. Yang Kai walked around blindly for half a day and had no idea if he was actually walking in circles. Even his divine sense couldn't be extended too far in this place as it seemed to be suppressed by some sort of mysterious power. At a certain point, Yang Kai stopped and looked around with a grave expression. "Senior brother, what happened?" Lu Xianyun asked nervously. "Do you feel the ground moving?" Yang Kai asked. Lu Xianyun broke out into a cold sweat instantly. Even though Yang Kai's tone was calm, the meaning of his words gave her jitters. "Maybe it's just an illusion," Yang Kai muttered to himself. Lu Xianyun gulped. "Senior brother, there's a saying about the solitary void mountain range." "What saying?" "Some say that the solitary void mountain range is alive." Lu Xianyun's pretty face paled. "Alive?" Yang Kai raised his brows. Lu Xianyun nodded. "The solitary void mountain range is constantly changing, so there's never been a map drawn of it. Sometimes, the landscape of one place can change rapidly, but sometimes it changes so slowly that no one notices. Many people think this is a result of the solitary void mountain range actually being alive." Yang Kai frowned and thought for a while, but then his eyes suddenly lit up. "That may not necessarily be correct, but there's definitely a basis for it." "What do you mean?" Lu Xianyun was confused. Yang Kai said, "Junior sister, you've been active around the outer periphery of the solitary void mountain range this whole time. Do you find good things often?" "Yes," Lu Xianyun replied, "I'm not the only one either. Many people from Marsh City experience the same thing." Yang Kai nodded. "Since so many people are active around there year-round, it's reasonable to say that the area should be barren by now. Even if there's anything good there, someone would long have taken it away. But since you're able to find valuable things often..." "That's something I've always been wondering about too," Lu Xianyun nodded. She never understood why, but after coming to the solitary void mountain range so many times, other than the few unfortunate times she wasn't able to find anything, she was always able to find something useful to her cultivation there. But this was clearly illogical. Senior brother, you mean to say? Yang Kai said, the solitary void mountain range is moving. Every once in a while, the terrain in its depths will flow outwards, and the spirit herbs inside will naturally appear outside as well. That's why good things can be found there all the time. How do you know that? Lu Xianyun was extremely surprised. She had been living in the solitary void mountain range for a few years, but she'd never thought about it that way. But Yang Kai managed to figure this out despite only having been here for a few days. Yang Kai smiled, it's just a guess, I'm not sure if I'm right either. But there was a high possibility of that being true, because that perfectly explained why good things were often found around the outer region of the solitary void mountain range. The earth was alive, writhing and tumbling at a speed that was almost imperceptible to average people. Once the land that was deep within flowed outwards, it would naturally bring all the good things inside with it. And yet the cultivators in the solitary void mountain range couldn't seem to figure this place out, and they were unable to notice the changes in the solitary void mountain range in the slightest. Hualala. Right at that moment, the sound of wings fluttering could be heard, followed by countless birds rising up into the air from the forest as if they had been frightened by something. Not only that, but the beasts on land had also begun fleeing, tumbling around like headless flies. In less than 3 breaths of time, the entire solitary void mountain range began to tremble. What happened? Lu Xianyun's pretty face changed to shock. Yang Kai was also confused, but in the next moment, his face changed. That was because the birds he saw flying in the air were all stopped mid-flight. They were unable to move even the slightest inch forward no matter how they flapped their wings. It was as if there was an invisible force holding them in place. Among the flying birds were many 11th order monster beasts as well. Yang Kai even saw a 12th order monster beast that was equivalent to an Emperor Realm Master. Just as Yang Kai was beginning to feel suspicious, the ground under his feet began moving rapidly, making it hard for Yang Kai to keep his balance. He almost toppled over, but at the same time, a strong suction force was being spread out from deep within the solitary void mountain range, drawing on Yang Kai's body as if it wanted to drag him in. Yang Kai's face changed dramatically. Without hesitation, he wrapped his source chi around Lu Xianyun and tried to escape this place by teleporting. But even after he moved the surrounding space principles, he found he was still standing in the same spot. Sensing this, Yang Kai exclaimed, the world principles here have been broken. The surrounding world principles had been shattered by some great and sudden change, making it impossible for them to leave this place by taking advantage of the space principles at all. And, in just that short amount of time, the ground beneath the pair began spinning even quicker. Yang Kai couldn't help but feel dizzy while Lu Xianyun was in even worse condition. She couldn't even stand properly and could only hold on to Yang Kai to support herself. The suction from the depths grew even more terrifying, and Yang Kai found it hard to fight against it with his cultivation no matter how hard he tried to stabilize himself. The fleeing beasts and birds had already been dragged in by the suction and disappeared from Yang Kai's field of vision in an instant. The less powerful beasts had even burst into clouds of blood mist. For a while, beasts were roaring and birds were crying out, making the solitary void mountain range extremely lively. Somewhere about 3,000 kilometers away, Yao Changjun's face was also horrified. He pushed his Emperor Qi, trying to escape the fetters of this place, but he failed even with his cultivation. The only thing he could do was forcefully hold himself in place to not be pulled away. Solitary void great maelstrom. Yao Changjun's face turned extremely dark. Even his will, which was firm as a rock, began to tremble with fear and anxiety. Compared to the newcomers, Yang Kai and Lu Xianyun who had not been living here for long, Yao Changjun had studied the solitary void mountain world thoroughly. He knew that this damned place may usually look calm and peaceful, but it could burst out with immense power that even an Emperor Realm Master could not resist from time to time. Those times were precisely during the appearance of the solitary void great maelstrom. The solitary void great maelstrom was a natural disaster that could destroy and reshape the solitary void's mountain range. Yang Kai's guess about the solitary void mountain range's terrain constantly shifting, allowing the cultivators around the outside to be able to find good things often, was actually quite accurate. But that shift was usually as slow as a crawl and would not bring too much danger to cultivators visiting this place to train. Because the cultivators often came to the solitary void mountain range, they usually did not notice the slow changes, and by the time they did, the terrain had already changed completely. However, when this creeping change reached a certain limit, the entire solitary void mountain would begin to spin like a berserk top, reshaping the solitary void mountain range in the process. That was the solitary void great maelstrom. No one knew why this happened in the solitary void mountain range. The world works in mysterious ways. Yao Chang-jun had been in and out of the solitary void mountain range many times and still could not understand this process. However, the cycle of the solitary void great maelstrom's appearance was very long, usually appearing once every few hundred or thousand years. Based on what Yao Chang-jun knew, the last solitary void great maelstrom appeared 600 years ago. At that time, countless cultivators were sucked into the solitary void mountain range, and this time would be no exception. And, as luck would have it, he ended up caught in it as well. Yao Chang-jun hated Yang Kai even more now. He felt that if this little brat had not interfered, then he would never have ventured into this place and encountered a disaster that he could not resist. If he was still around the outer region of solitary void mountain range, then Yao Chang-jun would definitely be able to escape with his powerful cultivation. But in order to pursue Yang Kai, he had entered the depths of this damned place. When the maelstrom appeared, the suction became stronger the deeper one ventured inside solitary void mountain range, and the harder it was to resist. Currently, Yao Chang-jun was less than 2,000 kilometers from the core of solitary void mountain range, a distance that made escape from the maelstrom all but impossible.